Form you thusly king, go scrap.
Pat, 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 pat. Skibbity,
Skibbity pap pap.
Anyway, this pop culture and meme reference has no place in this podcast. Welcome to the pilot episode of the TOSYTC podcast for Warhammer 40,000's hobby, or maybe 30,000, whatever. Right, and now in this episode, we've got the wonderful Nova.
Woo! Hey.
How's it going, Bert?
Yeah,
we've got
it's good.
The incredible Thomas.
Why, thank you very much.
Yes.
Such a flattering introduction.
This fat bearded dude who has all of the wolves in the world. And then, like me, I'm just a shit poster, so it's all good. Don't worry about me. Today we're here to talk about some 40k shit. Because I've been out of the hobby for a while, have I not?
Yeah, you've been out for a while, and we're gonna kick things off with a product that was released last weekend by Games Workshop, and I think is one of the worst things ever, but also the best things ever. So please may I introduce you, Vinny, to the Citadel painting handle.
I've seen this. I've seen this. I've seen that already. I've seen people mount it to airsoft guns.
I want one so bad.
Wait, Vinny,
it's going to be so.
Are you telling me you can mount this to an airsoft gun? Are you telling me it's a 20mm rail?
Yeah, someone managed to make it fit.
Oh dear. Have we already gone off topic to airsoft in such a short time?
Yeah, well, mate, I thought you were saying something to do with plot, not something stupid like that. Or like when you said it was a thing that Games Workshop released, I thought that they had done some Dreadnought Mark II.
A Dreadnought Mark II where the Grey Knight Terminator
is held by a larger Grey Knight Terminator,
Well, what it is, it's a Grey Knight Strike
section
who's being held by a Grey Knight Terminator.
You're just talking about Power Rangers now. Let's talk about 40k.
Do you know what Pro marks are back in the lore at the moment?
I know Gilliman's back.
Yeah, and there's two others.
Robert Gurley, man.
There's this guy, Mortarion.
Demon Mortarion back, yeah. And Angon, I assume, yeah.
No. However, it is someone very buff. Like, really buff.
Does he have wolves?
No, he doesn't.
Is Dawn back?
It's Magnus the Red. He's
Look
really
at this
buff.
cookie I found.
I mean, it's less exciting than if it were Dawn.
I've seen that Magnus the Red model. I assume that was for Heresy.
No, that's 40k.
That's him. That's him just showing up and being like, hey, sorry, I did nothing wrong, guys. Sorry that I did.
So TTS came true, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, here's the thing: is TTS predicted it well in advance.
Yeah. Right. So what else has happened? I heard KDO got cut off. Failbad actually did something.
So actually, it turns out that Failbadon, throughout all of his Black Crusades, was secretly destroying pylons on the planet that he was blowing up. So they've retconned it, so he's no longer a failure in the lore. He's been maniacally planning. And what happened?
And just losing 13 Crusades before this one, and destroying one pilot at a time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair.
And then
he decided to take it very much the long way round.
Yeah. And then
it's fine. We only lost thousands of suits of power armor and shit. Don't worry about it.
Cadia
thousands of irreplaceable genes.
I know, it got cut in half.
But it turned out that the Cadian system had all these pylons that the Necrons had built to close,
I know about that.
To close the Eye of Terror.
Creed got saved by a Necron, didn't he?
Creed's in a Tesseract Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Creed's in a library.
Creed!
But you've also...
Although I do want to say this quick. Possibly the most badass moment in the whole thing, and the reason I think that the Guard are actually the bravest warriors that Imperium has to offer.
Go ahead.
You know Colour Sergeant Kell, flag-bearing band?
Oh, yeah, love a bit of Kell.
Alright, he threw Creed onto a Valkyrie whilst burning, literally threw him onto a mid-air
Abaddon teleported down.
Never toss a dwarf.
Abaddon teleported down, stabbed Kel through the chest with his sword. Kel turned around and spat on Abaddon the Despoiler before dying. He spat on his face after having thrown Creed to safety.
And
technically,
Tom, he is still in the rules. He's still in the rules, so he may not even be dead.
He lived. Headcanon accepted. Kel lives.
But yeah, Vinny, that's what the Eye of Terror has done. It's because of Abaddon's Great Crusade. It's torn further open.
The Eldar and Dark Eldar decided to perform a merger and get rid of all of their divorce papers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a new faction for Eldar.
Now they're demanding that you.
Is it called the Eldari?
It's called the Ynnari, and they're followers of Inyad, which is the new god that the Eldar have created.
I know about Inyad.
Yeah.
Yeah, except he's actually been fully manifested now. He's not just a god that's brewing.
He's not at the height of his power, but he's.
But he has avatars now.
Yeah.
So in the same way that the shards of Caleb and Chicane can summon avatars of Caleb and Chicane, Ynned can now summon avatars of himself.
Oh, and Baal Tan got ripped in half.
Yeah, which fucking pissed me off. They were my Bay craft one. Fucking died.
Stab on you.
And Iandan got pretty screwed as well.
Oh yeah, if it couldn't get any worse for the faction that literally has...
Already was basically extinct.
Yeah, it was already extinct. It couldn't get any fucking worse for them. Their craft world is now in even more shit. Like, I just feel so bad for the Eldar in general.
They're not doing too hot.
No, but the Dark Eldar are completely taking this and just been like, yeah, we're awesome.
Well, the Dark Eldar, lore-wise, since the Great Rift expanded into the Cicadrix Maledictum or whatever it is, basically have been raiding like 10 times more than they were before. And lore-wise, Asdabel Vect, or whatever the main guy is. That's
Asdrubal Armor 14 Raider because I feel like it.
Yeah. The guy that no longer has any rules, sadly.
And has never had a model.
Yeah, but he basically has been telling all the Dark Eldar we need to stock up because shit's gonna go down, and I just want to hang in the webway.
Well, he's not wrong. As far as the Eldar, any time there was a problem, just webway, mate.
Yeah, and then
just GTFO. Black Library's got enough books to read.
How can you get bored when you have the universe's collected works?
Bro, Eternal Madness and having to listen to the terrible puns of Harlequins would be fun. And Chegorate,
Infinite puns of Harlequin.
Yeah.
It's great. Honestly, I think I'd rather just die to the shadow in the walk. I'd just rather suffer.
Speaking of, what's your guys' thoughts on the theory that the Tyranids are controlled by the outside of the Catan?
Possible.
I don't see much merit in that theory.
No?
No, because, and the reason I say this is the hive mind as we understand it is completely unknowable. However, the Psykers of the Eldar and the Farseers and stuff have been able to understand the Catan before they were shattered. Before they were retconned and shattered into shards, and the Necrons.
Well, not all of them, because that's not been confirmed about Void Dragon, but.
Okay, Void Dragon, yeah, but he's just chilling on Mars. He's just chilling in the core of Mars, having mild conversations.
My guy, the Emperor, slapped him about.
Yeah.
Though there was another theory that I heard. Is that what if you know Ferrus Manus?
Mm-hmm.
There was the silver thing. The silver dragon thing that he fought.
Yeah.
When he come out of his gestation pod. Gestation pod.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Could that have been because it says to be the metal of its skin is almost seeming like it's living. I think that could be a shard of the Void Dragon.
Well, considering
Ferrus Manus just dumped into lava with his hands.
Considering Ferrus Manus basically has hands that's made out of Necron metal.
Necrodermis, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say it's beyond doubt.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So what else is happening in 40k, my dudes?
Well, we've got 8th edition now.
Yeah, I know about that.
How much do you know about that?
I heard it's trash.
I've played
really?
a couple games of it and I've really enjoyed it actually.
I really wanted to enjoy 8th edition because when I read 8th edition, I was like, okay, no, this seems fairer. It seems simplified and streamlined, but still with enough depth. And then, having observed enough games of it, I've only played 2, but I've watched loads where I work. I've seen 40k games every fucking day.
Yeah.
It seems that the problem it always used to have, which was, I got the first turn, I shot you off the board and I won, still exists, which is sad. And no matter how much terrain you put in it, it doesn't seem to solve it because there's so many units now that say doesn't need line of sight to hit. Not has the barrage rule like how it used to be, just doesn't need line of sight. Especially considering the new Imperial Guard codex, because quite frankly, in 1500 points, about your average size game for people who've been collecting, you can take 3 50-man units of conscripts because there's no platoons.
Well, I heard that the Wall of Guns Codex couldn't take 50-man conscript units anymore.
It can't take 50-man platoon units, but it can take 50-man conscript units.
So you take 2 commissars and a tank officer, and then you take 2 units of 3 basic Lehman Russes with 3 heavy bolters and a heavy stubber on top, and it fits into 1,500 points, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop you. Like there's just not. You have too many wounds. You have too. It's impossible. You have too many wounds for anyone to shoot you off of the board if they get first turn, because your save is good and you have so many wounds. And when it comes for you to fire, you have the firepower of a 3,000 point list. I'll explain why. Because
orders, I know orders.
No, it's got nothing to do with orders. It's the new way Lehman Russes work.
If you stand still, you shoot twice.
Not if you stand still. If you move under half your maximum move, which for a full wound Lehman Russ is 10 inches, so you can move 5 inches or less, and you can fire your turret weapons twice.
Do things have movement ranges like in fantasy now?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And
tanks have toughness values.
Yep, they have toughness values, wounds values, and armor saves. Which has meant that vehicles are good again, because in 7 and 6 they weren't.
And they decay instead.
In the background, that's really annoying.
What?
Who's watching something in the background?
It ain't me.
Could you not? Because you can hear it.
There's people in the background and there's nothing about it.
Oh, is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, Nova said. I thought Nova said she was watching something.
No, it said it ain't me.
She said it ain't.
Oh, okay. Savage. Right.
But yeah, essentially, it's a really cool thing that they've done because it means that tanks are now valuable and viable again, where they weren't really before. But it also means that they are streamlined, so it makes the rules easier to learn and manage in your head. But it still keeps tanks and infantry more valuable, as well as the fact that they've point shifted everything. So tanks in general have become more expensive. But are genuinely a lot more powerful. So it doesn't take a single unit of tactical marines to deal with 3 vehicles.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with those changes.
So what toughness is a Land Raider?
Normally toughness 8.
Yeah, toughness 8.
Oh shit. So
yeah, but more importantly,
that means now
they've got 18 wounds.
Oh shit.
And a 2-up save.
Yeah, and a 2-up armor save.
Yeah, obviously.
Also, las cannons, so there's no damage table for vehicles anymore because of it, but it means that anti-tank guns, like las cannons and rocket launchers, deal multiple wounds, like old fantasy cannons and stuff.
Oh, nice.
D6, which is really cool, except those multiple wounds don't spread amongst infantry, so you can't use a las cannon to kill 6 dudes if you roll 6. It'll only kill the one.
Because it makes sense that you wouldn't, blast 6 dudes with 1 beam.
Yeah, obviously.
So
that's one thing I've always liked about some of the writers at GW, because the guys who came up with the vector strike idea, it's such a good idea.
Also, you can Oh fuck. Completely
It's like the highest armor value vehicle now, then. Well, toughness vehicle.
Land Raider, I
It's
think.
toughness 8, I
best
think
balance. It's toughness 8.
I
I
mean,
think there's a couple of things with toughness 9.
an Imperial...
What, so there's not front, side and back armor anymore?
Nope.
Nope.
Well, I kind of don't like that.
It's a bit of a weird
Yeah,
change.
I'm of a similar mind. However,
I'm a bit boo-hiss about that, I'm not going to lie.
yeah. However, dreadnoughts are finally good,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean like
Do
properly.
you remember when I wanted to make an armor 14 dreadnought in my phone?
Yes, I do remember.
And I did not think it through remotely until first playtest, and then you're like, Vinny, you cannot put this in this codex.
Vinny, you cannot have because you're like, well, ironclads are only armor 13, and they're not that good. No.
Yeah. Because I'd only ever seen ironclad just get destroyed on the first turn.
Stop this madness in the name of your codex!
The Codex Astartes names this manoeuvre still around.
The Codex Astartes does not support this action.
Fuck out of here, boy.
Or what? I'll call the Inquisition on you.
Oh, yeah. But, my
Will.
god. A lot has been going fucking nuts and okay right now, eh?
Yes, it has. Oh, you can also move and fire heavy weapons now.
But it's
Oh,
at a
gosh.
-1 to hit,
Yeah, just at a flat -1 to hit.
unless you're like a Land Raider or an Imperial Knight or something like that.
Land Raiders still suffer the -1 to hit.
Oh, is he
no,
still talking about vehicles?
Oh
Yeah,
no,
it's just-
infantry can move and
Infantry as well. Infantry can
Yeah,
move
but
and fire
snapshots.
Nope, at -1 to hit.
Oh.
yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Assault weapons don't just give you the ability to shoot and charge. They also give you the ability to run and shoot. So you can move and run and shoot, but at -1 to hit. So shotguns
And
are a
charge.
lot better.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and charge.
no, you can't charge if you run.
Because you can't run and charge, but you
Oh,
can
yeah.
move, run, and shoot.
So someone with fleet, so Dire Avengers.
Fleet doesn't let you run and charge. It hasn't done for 3 edition.
Oh yeah, I forget how behind my brain does go. Because I always used to no, because the most I meant more my collection, not my brain. Because all my codices are all from like before then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of cool stuff like that, but
what
it's
else
also
have you
why
got?
Living Russ because they ignore the -1 to hit for moving and shooting.
You can shoot pistols if you're in combat.
Wait, so captains can wait, hang on. Oh yeah, no, right, okay.
So
Yeah, captains can fuck up vehicles now as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably because you can take like a power fist does D6 wounds in combat, and you
Mhm.
still have like 4 or 5 attacks. So you can deal 5d if you hit and wound with all your attacks. You can deal like 5d6 wounds. It's fun.
you can shoot pistols in combat is another thing.
Yep, you
Yeah.
can shoot pistols in combat. It doesn't just give you +1 attack. So plasma pistols are actually massively decent.
Oh, I've been saying to do that since I started
Yeah,
playing.
it makes so much
Plasma,
sense.
you'll love this. Plasma only overheats if you want it to. So you can fire it normally and it won't overheat, or you can fire an overcharged version, which is more powerful, but it might overheat.
That is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What
That's
strength
new.
is it? Not without the gets hot rule.
Strength 7.
Strength 7. Still strength
what?
7.
And
Yeah, but
it's
strength
at
7 with a
-2
-2
to your armor
So
save.
assault armies are a lot harder to play now.
Yes.
Not necessarily.
No, well,
It sounds like there's a lot
Yes.
more higher firepower now.
you can charge after deep strike with everyone.
You can deep
Yeah,
strike
there you go.
turn 1, but you have
There's no deep strike.
there's
and
no scatter. You just
Oh, well.
start
Yeah,
a
but
minimum
for me
of
there's
9
no
inches
scatter
away.
anyway.
That is true. Vinny, you have an unnatural ability to,
Yeah.
to roll.
Do you remember that one Apocalypse game? And there was literally, you guys were like, Vinny, don't try it. There is literally
It was a
the bare
2-inch
minimum.
spot.
Yeah, there was a bare minimum to be able to
Yeah.
land my drop pod and get my
Yeah.
guys
Was
out.
this the one where you were deep striking
You
behind
were there,
the
yeah.
fortifications?
Yeah, I just deep struck my entire like 15-point list into their fortification and took on like 10,000 points of Chaos Marines,
That
and
was
then
dumb.
you guys just came in from behind them. Well, which
yeah,
was
because-
originally the front. We Istavanned them.
Yeah, but the thing is, you appeared and shot everyone, and everyone was like, "Oh no, we can't have these tactical marines in the middle of our lines," and they all turned and shot you.
Yeah.
And then it meant
This
that
was during the Blood Angels Codex that had the Vanguard
Charge-
that could charge from
charging
deep strike.
Vanguard.
Yeah.
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 Oh.
And that unit just dropped in and fucked shit up. And it killed like a unit of 40 berserkers in one man combat.
That was
If I
What was
recall correctly.
beautiful is that because of that, they left all 5 of my fire prisms alone, which meant that in the old rules, the apocalypse formation worked, and I could fire like the 15-inch
Yeah.
blast that just removed.
Didn't you take out a
everything
Titan
underneath
then?
it. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember who was.
That was the day we met Ben Todd, wasn't it?
It was the day we met Ben Todd. Do you remember?
Because I saved his Dante assault warrant.
You know, I still see him. He works with me.
Yeah, dude, that kid's awesome. We should get him on the podcast sometime, maybe.
He's a fucking legend.
That
He's
kid's
actually
pretty
that
cool.
dude. I love
he's a
that
complete, He's a complete meme lord now. I love it.
kid. I knew that kid was destined for memory.
It's just true though.
What's another
It's
thing? What's new things? Characters can't join units.
Oh, what?
So
But-
that's to
My
stop.
red squads.
It's to stop that exact Death Star tactic. But instead,
But characters can't be targeted unless they are A, the closest unit, or B, they have a certain wounds threshold or higher.
10 or more wounds.
10 or more. So if you're a massive ass monster,
Wait, things go above 10 now?
Yes.
yes. Oh, strength goes above 10, everything can go above 10.
Vinny, my Imperial Knight has 24 wounds and strikes in combat at strength 16.
Right, my
Do you
Imperial
have an
Knight...
expedition codex?
Yeah.
Rulebook.
Yes,
Yes.
I've got one as well.
Tom, are you working tomorrow?
I am working tomorrow, yes.
I may swing round tomorrow.
Bruh, come round tomorrow and look at all the 40k stuff. Dude, look at our Necromunda board. We've got a custom Necromunda board
Do
on
you?
the way.
Do you? Because
It's
I might have to
fuck-
come round and have a look
No,
at that.
dude.
You're not allowed your GW stuff.
Oh yeah, your GW stuff.
Yeah, you're banned.
Hey, I'm not banned. I love you guys down at the S. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Doesn't mean you're not bad.
Nah, it
No,
does.
you're not bad.
It does mean I'm not banned because I keep
Although-
coming back
although-
and buying stuff
Although
occasionally.
what happens is, I do see on my phone every single time, every single time you check in at Dice Saloon and not at check in at Games Workshop and not at Dice Saloon, and I'm just like, fuck it.
Most of the time that's because I'm working, and I have
Yeah.
to
Besides,
and
besides the point.
I have to check in for the Wi-Fi. That's all.
Nah, unacceptable.
Vinny. So Gilliman,
Yep.
being the massive pussy that he is, has 9 wounds, so he can stand behind a wall of Ultramarines.
And be fine. Like, he's actually a dickhead.
9 wounds.
His
I know. Mate, that's nothing. You remember how the Hive Tyrant and how underwhelming it used to be?
oh
Yeah.
God.
Hive Tyrant now has 18 wounds.
Yes. Yeah.
It also has a base. This is gonna fucking kill you. It has a base strength of 8. Right.
Mhm.
It can move. It can move 8 inches a turn by itself. No, 9 inches a turn by itself in its movement phase. Unless it has wings, then it goes faster.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it also has a psychic. It has a Hive Tyrant power, which allows any Tyranid unit to move twice in the movement phase.
Nice.
Yeah, but that includes a unit of Hormagaunts, which has a base move of 8 inches, and they can charge. So they move 16 inches, and then they can charge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, no,
The
this
Hormagaunts
is
have
why
gone from
people
annoying
go to
to
Dice
fucking
Saloon,
terrifying.
and
Yeah.
this is why they go to there and not to the GW store anymore. Because there's not the space on their boards to play
Oh,
the
I-
games that have like 48-inch charge ranges.
Yeah, I completely agree. We don't have the board space at all.
You'd have to play it lengthways, and that means you'd only have one game going on at a time.
Yeah, I mean we normally only have one game at a time at the moment.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
because everyone at Dice Saloon.
Yeah.
We have space for 8 4x4s or 6 6x4s in just our back section, not including our front section, which can have another 4 4s. Like our long
And
board.
you can drink alcohol.
Yes, exactly, and we're open till 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Which means that when regular people finish work, they can just go to Saloon.
It makes sense, and I have nothing against Saloon. That is my official personal stance.
The only reason we keep bringing these points up.
Yeah, let's not pitchfork Nova.
It's mostly because we're just astounded that Games Workshop doesn't do the same.
I don't
we remember the good old days. We remember the good old days when GW.
I don't understand why GW never bought a bigger store. Because in the good old days, back then it was busy enough that if there was times where they had to ask people to leave because it was too busy.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
there were two tables for people to play on.
I mean, I
came down every weekend and played. To be fair, it's because most of their sales are going on to web store now.
I think that might be it, yeah.
Because the vast majority of their sales and their income is through web store and through family and kids. Veteran hobbyists, they don't need to buy another box of Fire Warriors, another box of Tyranids, because they've got fucking hundreds of thousands of like everybody. Like, I can't even... Vinny, you've seen my attic. You know how much 40k I have. It's too much for 10 people to own, let alone just me.
Yeah.
But
I think another thing is you've got a lot of, because we've done so many like boards and terrain things, that a lot of people just have their own space at home and have people over.
Yeah.
And also, like, the hours for Games Workshop, like, it's normal shop hours, which makes complete sense, but a lot of people I know like to play games in the evenings and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a downside because it opens at normal shop hours, completely reasonable. But the vast majority of people that would want to play in store also work during normal shop hours, so they'll finish at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then they want to go play games for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, of course. It's like I always used to meet with like Luke Vincent and shit. And
Luke Vincent comes down here all the time. I'm really good mates with him.
Mate, the dude's a legend.
Yeah,
he took me to Brighton, not to Brighton Wars, to Worthing Overlords for the first time.
Nice.
And I played John Boone and that lot. They're like, those guys, they're the dudes, mate. Sat and had a humongous fucking 40k no fantasy tournament with them.
Nice.
Got absolutely gang raped by John Boone.
Speaking of humongous armies, do you remember the Apocalypse game with Lawrence and the Gene Stealer incident?
Oh my god.
What about Griff's 300 grots?
No, this is nothing on the Griff's. Griff's 300 grots, right, are walk in the park compared to the dreaded Gene Stealer incident. Okay, this is... Right. Okay, so this kid, I say kid, he was like 6 years older than me and 8 feet tall, but that's beside the point. This kid, he showed up to an Apocalypse game with 400 Gene Stealers that only came in units of 5. And because of the infiltration rules in that Apocalypse mission, he deployed in a box of units of 5 around 2 people's armies, and because you can't overkill onto other units, you'd throw godly firepower at them, and you'd kill 5. And then you'd have to throw ungodly firepower, and you'd kill 5.
Oh yeah,
and that's it.
Because there was
And
like
you just
no
keep-
split fire, so your entire Baneblade would be like, oh well, that's one unit.
Your entire
then.
Baneblade would fire at 1 unit of 5, and it would kill it, but then there's 395 more.
I killed far more of those than I should have.
They were so beautiful because everybody's face.
That's
honestly,
really smart though. That's really smart.
Mate, we thrashed them. We fucking
It
thrashed
was
them.
also because he had a lot of money.
Yes, he had more money than sense and
How do you come to own 400 Gene Stealers, mate? Like, I would get to 200 even if I had an obsession with the hobby. Like, I love the hobby and that. But I would get like to 200 and be like, this is a bit much.
This was also like 9 Khan effects, like all the Forge World Tyranid monsters. Like, this guy had everything.
Shout out my Black Templar unit that once slaughtered all mine of his Quan effectors.
Yep, mate, not gonna lie, do you remember
And there
when
was
we
a
played...
unit of, what was it, 7 guys?
Yep.
7 guys
7th
and the
edition
Inquisitor.
game. Do you remember when 6th first came out and we played a 2,500 point game against Oscar? And we didn't lose a single model.
But no, we lost a single model. At the end,
we lost a single orc that shouldn't have died because we misread the Overwatch special rules.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so technically, really, we didn't actually.
That was when I had my Blood Angels, didn't I? We did Blood Angels and Orcs. No, he was...
No, he was Blood Angels, you were using Templars, and your entire army started off the board, and my army was an orc infantry shooting
drop
army.
pods. That was when I had like 6 drop pods.
Yeah, so this was 1,200 points, right?
And everything in my army came in.
1,250 of Orcs and 1,250 of Black Templars versus 2,500 of Blood Angels. We didn't lose a single model, and he was completely tabled. It was the most savage victory I think.
I don't think there's ever been a more brutal victory in that store. And that was
no, untrue. The time I beat that 10-year-old kid because he was boasting about how good his Space Marines were, and I thrashed him.
You tabled him in those.
I tabled him in turn 1 with my Eldar, and I was just like, no, I ain't having none of your shit.
Is this Games Workshop Brighton that you're talking about? Because
Of course it is.
I did make a 12-year-old go home turn 2 crying once.
Good. Quite frankly, if a 12-year-old's going to start chatting shit, they need to...
I think everyone... It sounds really bad to say and very discouraging to people outside the hobby that want to come in, but I think every wargamer has their moment of just not necessarily just with like 12-year-old kids, because around the time we were probably like 13, 14, 12. But
we weren't
there
that
is
much
that
older.
guy that is just hilarious shit, and you're just like, you know what? I've had enough of you. And
it's the attitude of a kid who
is it the passions of the
but isn't
hobby?
a hobbyist.
Yeah.
But it's the attitude of the kids who have the hobby but aren't hobbyists, and I think that's quite an important distinction, because being a hobbyist means you take part in the actions of the community. You're part of the family that is us ultra nerds that play Warhammer.
Yeah.
And when you're one of these kids that has been when you're one of these kids that's just sort of come along, been bought an army for Christmas, built it last second, and you've played one game against your mates and you won, that doesn't give you the authority or the gall or
the authority, man like Tom,
to walk in and be like, my Space Marines are the best Space Marines because I beat my best friend in my birthday store game, and it was brilliant because I only used half my shooting phase. And I'm like, mate, you want to sit the fuck down? Because I had like a 106 win rate in a row with my...
That
my
was
Eldar.
what Empire George was like. He was that guy.
I still
ever heard me like that.
I still see
I
him
demolished
sometimes.
him like 5 times. Like, I made him leave the store once. I 3 times. He was the guy that I used to go to test my rules because I disliked how he acted in the store that much.
I felt really bad for him because in that one game, because it was before they errated like Phoenix equipment and Dragon Prince equipment to go.
You know the story, Nova.
Which one?
So this was before they errated.
Do you remember my High Elf Lord, Alessia? The one that was like stupid, impossible to kill.
Yes,
because it was the most blatant abuse of the rules.
Yeah, and it was the one where it was back in the edition where High Elves literally fought first and got rerolls and everything because they fought first.
Yeah, that was basically what it says in the book. And because they're elves, they fight first, even with great weapons. And so I just took a great weapon.
And then they get rerolls to hit because of initiative.
It's a halberd. Yeah, because
the original version was a great weapon.
But it was because it was an army special rule as opposed to a special rule on each individual unit, which meant it overrid the great weapons always strikes last, and they always struck first anyway. Which is why Swordmaster's bullshit.
That got routed though, so that it would be Swordmasters, like great swords fighting initiative order, which is still like initiative 6.
Yeah, exactly. And their weapons skill 6. It was dumb. But what was brilliant is because this was before the incident with George was going to be
so one of the
equipment from immune to fire to 2-up ward save.
And so there was called the Armour of Calador or something. And it was a 2+ armour save that could be re-rolled. And she had I think 4-up ward save?
Yeah, 4-up ward save that was re-rollable.
Yeah.
You had like some 30-point gem that made your ward save re-rollable.
Yeah. And also completely immune to fire damage because the armour of it is dragon armour, which is what dragon princes were. And so I used to sit her, and bear in mind this was a character that I would use in like 750 to 1,000 point list. She was like half the army, pretty much.
Yeah,
That's
always been your style.
It's always been my style, but she was like the ultimate abuse of it. Well, you say that, she was still only something like 200 points because of some match she could beat. So it was like a third of a quarter of the army. But still, that's all lords could be anyway, I swear. Could only be 25% of your army in fantasy back in them days. Yeah,
back in the day.
But I used to chuck that all into one character, and Alessia was the perfect thing of that character. And so I would put her with a unit of 5 dragon, a unit of 5 Phoenix Guard, who also had this armor, and they also all had halberds, and also all struck first because they strike first. And I charged George's unit of 40 great swords.
Yep.
That unit that he always puts either the Lord version of a warrior priest or a warrior priest in, and always activates the spell with them that makes them have flaming attacks. And of course,
it doesn't matter.
Pre-errata, immunity fire.
And he challenged Alessia, who is already a bitch to kill, and was like, I'm going to destroy you. And
have you not heard about this
character, George?
This was like...
He challenged her. I was going to just slaughter his unit with her.
Yeah, he challenged her, and you accepted because he had a potion of strength, and a rune fang, or something like. No, it wasn't a rune fang. He had a potion of initiative. He had a potion of something.
If it was the Lord version, he just had rune fang. If it was the Lord version.
Oh yeah, because they had this was when they were 100 points. So he had a rune fang, and he was like, I've got a rune fang, and now it's got flaming attacks, so I get blah 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 from the warrior priests. And then
I go, yeah, except you can't hurt me. And he goes,
yeah, and then,
what?
The kid rolls to hit, which was the best bit, and he landed all 5 hits. And then I'm just there looking at him, just like.
And I went, go on, roll to win, and he rolled to win, and I went, none of them hurt me. And like 4 of them were like 6s, like most of them were like 6s. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna destroy him. And I was like, yeah, except you can't win me.
Except I have immunity to fire. Not just 2-up ward save against flaming attacks. Immunity to flaming attacks because the fucking pre-errata was so dumb.
And then I proceeded to kill his warrior priest with 2 wounds left over, which then made me win the combat because he couldn't kill any of my Phoenix Guard because his entire unit had flaming attacks, and Phoenix Guard also are immune to flaming attacks. So because of the 2-point overkill, I won the combat because the Phoenix Guard killed like no one.
So dumb.
Or killed enough so that the outnumbered didn't make a difference. So that it was a stalemate, and then Alessia just overkilled.
Even with charge bonus and rank bonus and banner bonus and BSB bonus, none of it mattered because the general had just died and overkilled by 2, so he still lost.
And then my 5 Phoenix Guard ran down his unit of great swords, which was essentially the entire army.
Oh, that kid. I felt... I would feel bad for him if it wasn't so funny.
And the guy was just such a smug dude. I never understood it. Like, he brought it upon himself so much. It sounds so bullyish to say, but...
It's weird, though, because I do get what you mean. He was always... I mean, he was never, like, the best general, but he was always really smug whenever he did anything well.
Moderately clever. He really... Which is why, because do you remember right towards the end of 8th edition, Bretonnians were pretty much the worst army because Wood Elves had finally got on the Codex update. Yeah. Well, I played a 2v1 with Empire Georgia on my side versus Aaron Burnsley's Ogres. At 2,500 points.
You got smashed in it.
Well, he got smashed because I was just like, okay, I'll hold the right, you hold the left, my cavalry will destroy his on the far side, I'll come round and I'll be able to win us the game. Just hold, right? Literally the instruction was, we have the range, we sit, we hold.
Hold the line.
All of his stuff combined, and all of the fancy nonsense he pulled, right? He went up against a 8-man unit of Ogres and a 4-man unit of Lead Belchers. That was the side that he had to fight, okay? I had to fight a horde of 18 Iron Guts with the Tyrant and the Magic Caster and the Thunder Tusk.
How did he lose?
He lost. I won because I had my brick of 40 peasants with the level 4 wizard.
Brick of 40 peasants. I remember that.
I had
the old
fights, and I made them toughness 7, and I gave them the 5-up regen, and then every time some of them died...
Few units that ever beat Alessia's unit.
Because you couldn't stop me.
Because you just couldn't win. Too many guys.
I remember your block of peasants that your wizard
You
just
just
bluffed
can't
the
stop
shit
them.
out of.
And then I had like that, and then I had 2 units of 20 archers with flaming arrows. But because they had long bows, they could shoot 30 inches away. So I would just pepper you with flaming arrows until you had to take fear tests, and then you'd run away. That was the whole point of the list. And then I had 1 unit of 7 cavalry with 1 character in it and 1 mage in it that had also Law of Life to make them really high toughness, and the character who was just good at challenges. And then they just used to run around the side, kill a ranged unit, because they had the banner that meant that you couldn't stand and shoot against them. And it was like 5 points. It was the most bullshit banner on the planet. Nothing. And I just used to go around and then turn around and kill whatever had hit my target with a rear charge.
Oh yeah, rear
It was
charges
just
were
the best.
horrendous.
Exactly, it was just the best thing, and nobody ever could fucking deal with it. Which was hilarious, because Empire George was against so little, and he got so... Oh, this was also the game, right, where my unit... Because I had the big unit of peasant, the small unit of peasant. This was the game where my small unit of 20, right, killed the Thunder Tusk. It was beautiful, because I rolled to hit and to wound with all my halberdiers, and I left it on 1 wound, and then I forgot that...
I really want a biscuit.
At the initiative below them was my little priestess, my little damsel of the lady on foot.
Yeah.
So I rolled to hit, and I hit, and I needed a 6 to wound, and I rolled a 6, and he needed a 4 bomb save, and he rolled a 1, and the Thunder Tusk died to a lady with a stick.
I will never forget. Speaking of things dying and people getting salty, I will never forget playing Nick's ogres with my entirely goblin army, and. He charged my goblins, and back then it was the Banner of the Bad Moon, which was it was basically dangerous terrain if you charged them.
And he rolled so many ones.
And like five ogres died, like 5 ogres just insta died on the charge, and they're 3 wound models.
Because dangerous terrain kills you. It doesn't wound you. It just kills you.
Ouch.
And then he attacked. We actually went simultaneously because I think we're both initiative 2. And he was like, "Oh yeah. So I'm wounding you on 3s," and I was like, "Actually, I've got 2 units of netters here. You're actually wounding me on 5s."
Netters were beautiful.
He was like, "Hang on. You mean those little handkerchiefs your goblins are throwing on my ogres are causing them to have -2 strength?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sorry."
Yep. And then a fucking my favourite is because I used to always, because I had an orc and goblin army briefly.
Yeah.
And I always used to have 1 unit of like 20 night goblins, as cheap as I could. I had 3 fanatics. And I would put them in a intentional roadblock spot. You know when you put them, like when you put a unit facing diagonally, because you're trying to get people to...
We're talking about fantasy, not 40k right now.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was the superior game.
Oh.
Yeah, I fucking said it.
Well, I don't know if you did though.
No, I said it.
I said it. I've got
because I think you're not editing this video, so I don't know if you said that. Ooh.
Ooh.
However, let's talk about the real superior game.
But I said it though.
Let's talk about the real superior game that Games Workshop are bringing back.
Necromunda.
Yes.
Necromunda.
I would love to hear a lot about this.
Well, we can talk about it next time on the podcast, because I think that's all we have time for this evening.
Oh, that's cold. That's a good segue.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, looking at our time right now, we have used up far more time than we were initially supposed to. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. What's the word? Not annual, inaugural.
Random, shitty little thing that we put together.
We'll call it a wargaming podcast because we didn't really stick to 40k so much. Which is good. It gives us the freedom to swap over to other shit. But we're always going to end up talking about 40k or fantasy or something that the other like.
We're one of those groups that just will tangent. Let's be honest.
Tangent, yeah. We are the tangent kings and queen. So yeah, until next time. This has been Vinny.
And me, Nova, I guess, if that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep, and me, Tom.
Signing out.
Bye.
Peace.